Pokémon. It's a series I think back on fondly quite often, and is probably the earliest memory I have of playing an RPG, and is probably the series that left such a huge impact on me that I'm a junkie for them now. So, after being away from the series for quite some time, with the remakes of Gold and Silver being my last games I properly played, I've dabbled in a few of the other ones. I was excited to jump into Pokemon Sword and see where the series is now and what it had to offer. And what I got was a game that made me feel indifferent. I can't say that I was ecstatic by what I played, but I wouldn't say I was disappointed either. I'm Pat Kearley from the Republic of Players, so sit back and allow me to give you a rundown on Pokemon Sword. So, I guess the first part of Sword I should take a look at is the story, and here I know Pokemon games are not known for having the most complex or deep stories, but I was hoping for it to evolve in some state or form, compared to what has been shown from previous games. Now, in some areas I feel the game did well. For example, a few characters really have a bit of depth to them that makes them easier to invest in. This is probably the first time I really felt interest in characters outside of what Pokemon they have. It makes the journey feel more important in a lot of aspects, and not just go beat up the Pokemon champion and the evil organization. It's just nice to have characters that exist beyond a certain gimmick, and I feel it would have been so much more effective if the dialogue was better. Man, it's so dull most of the time, and feels like the bare minimum in effort was thrown in just to progress the plot. It's so boring and feels just unnatural. Yes, the words make sense, but there feels like there is no life behind them 90% of the time. Taking a look at a game similar to Pokemon with Nexomon Extinction, the writing in that game is full of life and leaves you with strong impressions of characters, the world, and feels like there's emotion behind most individuals you speak to. Heck, you don't even need to look outside the Pokemon series to see good dialogue. Just look at Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red or Blue Rescue Team. You can sense the emotion from the text, making the characters feel real. Reading what is written in Sword comes off as lazy, and I feel it is such a missed opportunity to elevate the series in a place that it has been stagnant in for a long time. Now, the actual narrative itself follows the beats one would expect of a Pokemon game. You start off in a small village, you get a starter Pokemon, your mother sends you off on your adventure because your father has most likely abandoned you. Ah, so relatable. You face gym leaders, fill up your Pokedex, stop the bad guy, and bully the Pokemon champion out of his title. Simple stuff. And I don't think a simple plot is a bad thing, but please, try to make it somewhat compelling. By the way, spoilers ahead! Yeah, so you have been warned. Skip ahead to the next time skip if you want. Okay, good, I'm leaving those burps in. The big bad of this game, Chairman Rose, seems like a pretty nice guy whenever you interact with him, but turns out he evil. He summons a legendary Pokemon in order to stop a disaster that happens 1,000 years down the line. And the biggest problem is he doesn't really elaborate what this disaster 1,000 years into the future is. Not a tidbit. Instead, this man decides to call forth a legendary Pokemon that could be considered a disaster in its own right. It's exceptionally vague and feels tacked on for the simple fact that they needed a big baddie. His motive isn't clear, and his super vague reasoning does little to add any form of tension. And I can hear the argument that it's for kids, and I'm being overly harsh here. My response? No, I don't think that's the case. You can still deliver enough depth and tell a captivating story while keeping a narrative kid-friendly. Yet again, Nexomon Extinction or Rescue Team Red or Blue. are perfect examples of games following the same formula or exist within the same series that show that more deep and captivating stories can be achieved in a mainline Pokemon game. Pokemon has such a huge possibility to ascend to greater heights through better thought out stories that can still be super appealing to children and adults alike. Overall, this story is not very good, especially to other Pokemon games I have played. Like, there's this underlining tone that it could be more complex than your average mainline game with this threat that's 1,000 years into the future. But it's just not expanded upon in any significant way for it to be interesting in the slightest. In fact, you could say it's rushed. Also, quick side note, why isn't this game voice acted? There's scenes that clearly look like they need voice acting and leaves them feeling so uncomfortable. Why would you do this? Game Freak, why? But enough about the story. Let's get on to the main meat of a Pokemon game. Gameplay. It's straightforward turn-based gameplay, with your slave monsters duking it out to see who be the strongest, with certain types of Pokemon and specific moves either being non-effective, effective, or super effective. It's super simple and it's just so easy to jump into and get the hang of. Not much has really changed from the old days. Battling and making your Pokemon stronger to evolve is as addictive a game loop as it has ever been. Dynamax forms are the new gimmick with this game, and boy do they feel gimmicky. It seems to make them stronger, but usually any super effective move will take them out handy. They feel lackluster and were a huge letdown. They sadly just don't live up to what my expectations of them are. Sure, it looks cool seeing a giant fucking Pokemon, but it just feels like a waste and tacked on to differentiate it from previous entries. I always remember the grind of leveling up Pokemon, and that thankfully is no longer an issue. Now with every battle your whole team shares in the experience gained. This is a lifesaver for evolving Pokemon, and you're not going to be spending an age and wasting time unnecessarily to get Pokemon that you want. A brilliant little quality of life improvement that I'm honestly surprised wasn't introduced before this. Obviously this makes the game a little easier, but I'll get to that in a second. One of my favourite new additions has to be the wild area, an open space where you come across Pokemon of varying different levels. Honestly, really love the approach they went with this, as you can challenge yourself against stronger Pokemon, and it can be ever so satisfying besting stronger Pokemon with your weaker team. But I feel it brought some little niggling problem. You level up very fast if you do this, and with every Pokemon sharing in on the experience points, you become strong quick, and it makes the game a breeze to play through. Now, I'm all for experimentation the likes of this, especially with a franchise that has been stale in evolving its formula for years. But if they continue to go on like this with any future game, a better balance will have to be found that doesn't take away too much from the actual story's difficulty. Perhaps something as simple as scaling trainers and gym leaders to a level close to you in order to give you some resistance, rather than steamrolling over them. The best way I can describe this is like taking a poo. When you let out a good hefty one with a bit of effort, you feel bloody amazing. But if you have diarrhea, it's quick, depressing, and leaves you feeling like utter shit. And that's kinda how I felt. I blew through this game at an astounding rate, even though I may have been a few levels stronger than everyone. It was just way too easy and left me feeling as if there was no big climactic battle. Everyone felt like a pushover, and maybe this is partially my fault for playing around in the wild area a little too much in the beginning, but even without that, I still felt like nothing was overly challenging in this game at all, not even the Pokemon League. The only time I used potions was in the very last battle, which feels so weird when I look back at the other Pokemon Leagues from previous games that could give you a run for your money if you weren't prepared. But it doesn't stop there. The level design is also pretty weak, with it being way too straightforward. The best example I could give is the caves. The old, more detailed labyrinth-like caves of older games are pretty much simplified to a saddening degree. It's almost to the point where you enter the cave and the exit to the other side is just around the first corner. I feel this is most likely due to how big of a jump Game Freak took between this and their previous games. Now that you can move around free in any direction rather than being confined to a D-pad, I say a big part of this is them learning how to develop around this new dimension of 3D space they wouldn't normally have done. But the layout of the world is very linear and just not very imaginative. And the game does like to restrict your movement a hell of a lot until you do a certain parts of the story. And while I can recall this once or twice in older titles, it happens way too frequently here. There are parts of this game that just feel rushed, as if they didn't have proper time to implement all they wanted to, and hence why so many restrictions are in place to stop you from bulldozing through the game at an even quicker rate. But your options are fairly limited to where you can go, unlike previous games. Because of this, the game comes off feeling like a turn-based RPG that is suited for someone who might want to try the genre out for the first time. In all honesty, it feels like it has regressed in a lot of manners, with this jump to the third-person view. And this begs the question of whether taking this leap to third person was worth leaving the overhead view of all the other games. Its design and style just come off as less impressive to all other Pokemon games I've played. By the time I was done, I couldn't help but feel like I had a drastically lesser experience with Sword. Man, I feel like such an old man right now. Back in my day, Pokemon was so much better. While I dwell over the crisis of getting old, let's talk about something more uplifting. Catching Pokemon and filling up the Pokedex. It's a simple task when you think of it, but one that is fun to hack away at even if you never catch them all. Now, I know a lot of people weren't too happy with the fact that this game wouldn't contain every Pokemon from previous games that you could simply drag in. In all honesty, I couldn't really give a damn about this. There's honestly way too much Pokemon at this stage, and shaving off a few I see no harm in. Besides, there's 400 Pokemon to choose from here. If you can't be happy with that, then I'm not sure what's wrong. Also, it's pretty cool to actually see what Pokemon are around you, allowing you to choose what you fight or help you look for a certain Pokemon that you're looking for. We get some new Pokemon as well. From your 3 starters, Beware, which is a giant teddy bear that I love and want to cuddle, and the ever cute Wooloo, to name a few. And most of them are great. One of my biggest gripes I would have is that certain Pokemon are made exclusive to each version of the game, which I feel is pure extortion. I know the idea behind it is that your friend buys one and you buy the other and trade, but they already have that function to evolve some Pokemon, so trading would be necessary anyway. It comes off as pure greedy, and I know that some people will buy both just to get that full Pokedex. At this stage, I don't think the 2 separate games holding 1 or 2 unique Pokemon is needed anymore. Let us simply be able to fill the Pokedex up with the one game. It just seems like a scam in my opinion and is scummy as hell. Like, imagine if Elden Ring had 2 versions with each of them having exclusive boss fights to them, where you would have to either go into other people's version of the game simply to fight them, or buy both versions to fight all bosses. People would go batshit crazy. And just because Pokemon has been doing this since it started, doesn't mean they should keep pulling this crap. And here I thought they were moving away from this practice with Legends Arceus. Yet there they go and showcase Scarlet and Violet. The pure greed is insane and it's so backwards. Also, how hard this game panders to older generations of Pokemon you can catch honestly makes me feel a little sad. It feels like there's a bigger push on them throughout this new region, making it feel less like you're going through a new region, and more so trudging around and simply capturing more old Pokemon than new. which while suits me as it panders to my nostalgia, makes the Galar region feel less inspired. But I'm getting off track. Graphically, this game isn't anything too impressive. Animations can come off as stiff, the world can look meh a lot of the time, but it does have some great designed locations here and there. Overall, it's fine. Underwhelming, sure, but fine. Though, one thing that I can say Pokemon always seems to nail is music. There's something so natural to its tunes that they fit the locality or situation pretty spot on. The only one I can think of that doesn't fit might be the Hulberry theme. Sounds like it would fit an old western themed village maybe. But overall, music is just catchy and easy on the ears, and it wouldn't be too hard to find myself humming some of the tracks. They really do just work so well. So, Pokemon Sword is a little all over the place in my opinion. I feel it's great that they experimented with wider, open areas with Pokemon of various different levels, as well as giving a shot at a more open third-person view, unlike the older titles. But it feels like it has lost so much in the process that I wonder, is this the right direction for the series to go? Now, I feel with time Game Freak will become more accustomed to this style of game. If Pokemon Legends Arceus is anything to go off, they are definitely going in the right direction. But even then, I still feel there is a long way to go from giving a truly great experience the likes of the older games. Sword feels too simple, too straightforward, and too bland in a lot of places. And it happens too many times if you ask me. Does this make the game bad? No. It's just fine. Its basics are still there and they are fun to play. It's basically baby's first turn-based RPG. This feels where you would start, before going on to more exciting and better games like it. And it's truly a shame. Pokemon as a franchise has so much potential to flourish, yet it feels like we got something that didn't get enough time in the oven. And looking at how they were pretty much pushing out a Pokemon game nearly every year, it tells a tale of a game most likely rushed. Pokemon Sword feels like it's simply missing the spark to be anything truly good. It's a fine game, and it left me feeling truly indifferent to a franchise I have held close to my heart since I was a child. The magic this series once brought to life for me simply doesn't seem to be there anymore. And even with new games like Legends Arceus, I don't think it ever will be. Unless there's a really big change. And while I would love to have ended the video there on that very depressing note, I must add, please subscribe, like and comment. I'll sell you my soul if you do. It helps us stay motivated and lets us know if we're doing a decent enough job or not. And until next time, take her handy lads and lassies.